New Jersey area to manage and teach the various aspects of gardening as they relate to Jewish values and Torah lessons. And I'm going to read something off their website that I think describes their mission best. So as they say, the garden provides a myriad of teachable moments and learning opportunities, from laws involving agricultural charity to implications of laws pertaining to gardening on Shabbat. Participants of Grow Torah engage with food justice firsthand, as they must decide what portion of their produce to donate to local charities. And educators can use the garden as a springboard for conversations on local, national, and global food policy. Growing food inspires students to eat more healthfully and recite their brachot, or their blessings, more thoughtfully and with more meaning and intention. And so tonight we're joined by Sarah from Grow Torah, but I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Ronit. That was a much better introduction than I was going to give. Hello, everyone. My name is either Farmer Sarah or Sarah just Michael. The reason why I go by Farmer Sarah is it's part of what we do with our lessons, is teaching our students about how farmers are the people who grow food also, because, you know, the first thought with often more of a herder or someone who deals with animals, but we want them to all feel like farmers and understand that when they grow their food in their school gardens, and when we're growing with them, we're all doing the work of a farmer, because being a farmer is hard work, much harder than the work that we do in the garden. And we do have to understand that growing our food is hard work. So thank you all for joining tonight for our post Tu B'Shevat celebration. I am going to, Ronit, would you mind making me a co-host, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to do a little screen sharing. We'll do a little text study, and then we'll go ahead and get to our pickling. Even though Tu B'Shevat has passed, when there's something that you love, you want to hold on to it and make it last longer. So we're pickling our Tu B'Shevat today by making it last longer. All right, so I am going to do a little screen share here. Welcome to your pickling event. All right, so let me go into presentation mode. Awesome. Can everyone see the screen okay? Awesome. Thanks for the nods and the thumbs ups. That's always helpful on Zoom. Also, we're a small group, so it's very easy for us to be able to make this collaborative. So please feel free to hop off mute anytime you want to ask a question or chime in with anything you want to add. It's always more fun for me also when people are participating more fully. And as we get to the pickling part, we will be popping around to see what everyone's actually pickling today, because there's lots that we can pickle. All right, so Ronit sort of already went through what is Grow Torah, so I won't share that with you. But what I will share is that our main program is that where we go to the schools and build the garden and teach in the garden. Right now, there are two of us who are full-time workers at Grow Torah, myself and Yosef Gillers, who's from Newton. So I don't know if anyone here might know him, but we are starting a new version of our program where it's for schools who we are going to be teaching the teachers. So it's a less expensive program, and it's sort of also for schools outside of our geographic reach where we can't show up at the schools all the time. So right now we're in a lot of New York, New Jersey schools, and hopefully we'll be moving into schools outside of the New York, New Jersey area soon. So that was part of our little, I'll just add that onto Ronit's intro of what it is that we do. Here's a picture from the Frisch School in New Jersey. And some of the other schools that we're at are maybe ones that you know from the New York, New Jersey area. And we're actually also at Kohelet in Philadelphia, and a few more, which I think we're not enough. So for now, mostly New York, New Jersey. All right, so since we're still celebrating Tu B'Shevat, let's talk about what Tu B'Shevat is. Tu B'Shevat is considered Chag La'ilanot, right? The birthday or the new year of the trees. We're celebrating the trees, but there's a machloket, a debate in the Mishnah as to whether it is, according to Beit Shammai, it was on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, the 1st of Shvat, and on Beit Hillel, it's on the 15th of Shvat. Does anyone know what this picture is of here in the photo? If anyone wants to hop off Zoom, you can let us know what that is a picture of.
Shkedia.
Yeah, exactly. I heard a few people say that. Shkedia porachat, exactly. An almond tree blossoming. So the reason that this debate was happening of when to celebrate the Chag La'ilanot, the birthday of the trees, is because the first bud to open up in Israel, usually, is the Shkedia tree, the almond tree. And this here was taken a week and a half ago by a friend of mine in Israel, and she sent She sent me the photo. So I guess on the year that Beit Shammai was checking out the trees, he saw that it was happening closer to the 1st of the month. And the year that Beit Hillel was checking out the trees, it happened closer to the 15th of the month. In general, it is usually closer to the 15th of the month. And we also generally hold by Beit Hillel. So Beit Hillel won that one. And we have Tu B'Shevat, 2 is 15, right? So that is the reason for the timing of why now. The first fruit tree in Israel is that almond tree to blossom. It is beautiful.
Yeah, but
And
she
sorry?
must go to an Orthodox yeshiva. Right?
What did she say?
We mostly work with Orthodox schools, but we work with some also non-Orthodox also. For the yeshiva day schools that we're at. We're also at a JCC school and Temple Sinai in Inglewood. All right, so in the Torah, there's lots of love for the trees, not just for Tu B'Shvat, and there's also a lot of respect and love for preservation, right? So this is a pasuk from Devarim, and it says, when you wage, I'll go for the English if that's okay with everyone here. When you wage war against a city, you have to besiege it a long time in order to capture it. You must not destroy trees wielding an axe against them. You may eat of them, but you must not cut them down. Are trees of the field human to withdraw before you into the besieged city? So it's actually, we learn from this a lot about Bal Tashchit, which is the mitzvah of not wasting. And like I was saying before, when there's something that we love, we try to preserve it. So the trees give obviously a lot to us, like oxygen and clean air. But also this is a situation where you would think that it's fine if you're at a time of war and you're taking over a city. That seems like a time when it would be fine to destroy the local trees, but we're not allowed to. So if you're not allowed to during a time of war, you're definitely not allowed to cut down trees just in normal everyday life, unless there is a need for it. So there are times when it's okay, and that would be if there is a need for it. There is a city, which I actually found out on a Tu B'Shvat Zoom call over this past week. We've had, thank God, lots of programs. But I found out from someone who was joining in that in New Square, the city of New Square, they built a road around a fruit tree because they wanted to bring this to fruition, this mitzvah of not cutting down a tree. So they wanted to make sure to hold that closely. So they built the street around that tree, which I just thought was an interesting thing. All right, so why should we care? Hashem tells us to care about the earth. So we're talking about trees and preservation, and this is something that we can extend beyond Tu B'Shvat. And these are some of the kinds of things that we talk about in our school gardens about caring for our earth. And this is from Kohelet Rabbah. All of this I have created for you. Therefore, take great care that you do not damage and destroy my world. For if you do, there is no one else to put it right what you have destroyed. So we have to, again, like we said before at the beginning, when there's something that we love, we try to hold on to it. Even if it's a moment, we try to make it last longer. So if there's some food that maybe you grow that you love, maybe a cucumber or a carrot or peppers or anything else, and you want to make them last longer, we'll get to that with pickling. All right, so we were talking a little bit before about not wasting, right? Bal Tashchit, which is this concept of not wasting. So we learned before about the trees and not cutting down trees. The Rambam says in the Mishnah Torah that it's not only regarding trees, but even one who destructively breaks vessels or rips up clothing or tears down a building or seals up a spring or wastes food violates the negative commandment of do not destroy. However, he only receives stripes for disobedience in accordance with the rabbis. So Rambam is saying that it's not just about the trees that we have to preserve and take care of. It's a lot more than that. There's, again, it's all about destructively breaking, right? It's ways that are and wantonly, and like, you know, a way that if there's no need for the destruction, then it's actually not it's pretty much not allowed. If anyone has any ideas, feel free again to hop in, interrupt me anytime you'd like. All right, so like I said, we are going to be doing our preservation today through pickling, and a little bit of a history of pickling. there are, as many people have heard of, kosher dill pickles. And why are they called kosher dill pickles? Does anyone know before I go into that? Let's see if anyone has any ideas about kosher dill pickles. Okay, cool. Well, kosher dill pickles actually came from pickling in shtetl time in Europe, and pickling in general was, well, first of all, we've heard about a little bit of pickling sort of in the Torah with Yosef. When he had to prepare for the famine, he filled up the storehouses. And if he filled up the storehouses, they must have been preserving the food in some way. It's possible, maybe they were pickling then. But in the shtetl in Europe, not only were the Jewish community pickling, but the non-Jewish community was also pickling. But the non-Jewish community was pickling mostly using vinegar, which is a common way of pickling, but it's pretty expensive to buy. It was pretty expensive to buy vinegar, and the Jewish community couldn't afford the vinegar. So they created this other type of pickle using a saltwater brine. And that saltwater brine was a little bit bland tasting. So to spice it up a little bit, the Jews started to put in garlic and dill, and thus was born the kosher dill pickle. And that was why it became known as a Jewish pickle. So we're going to be doing sort of a version of that type of pickle today. If anyone's done pickling before with brine, there's lots of ways to pickle. That type of pickling with the salt water is now called lacto-fermentation. If anyone knows about lacto-fermentation. It's basically when the brine that we're creating is going to be grabbing onto the sugars in the vegetable and using those sugars to grow bacteria. Hopefully we'll be growing the good kind of bacteria, and I'll give you a little bit of tips of how to, if you notice the bad kind of bacteria, what to do and how to prevent it. So we'll get to that, but it's a way of naturally preserving your food, right? So if you're growing a large harvest and you don't want it to go to waste, you don't want to betray the mitzvah of Bal Tashchit, preservation is a really great way to make your food last longer. All right, so we are going to get started right now with our recipe. If you didn't already get it, I'll just quickly go over it. We're going to be cutting up some vegetables. Any kind of vegetables that you have should be good to go. And some people do actually have fruits. If anyone here is doing fruit, you're going to need some sugar. You're going to need a jar, some chlorine-free water. And if you don't want to use chlorine-free water, which is often bottled water, you can set aside some water and just let it, I just have my water sitting here. This is regular tap water, and the chlorine will sort of evaporate out of the water. So just let it sit for a little bit. And then you're gonna need some bay leaves. I've got bay leaves here. Some garlic, fresh dill or dry dill. I have some both here, and whatever kind of spices you like. We are going to be experimenting together. A lot of people like to put in red pepper flakes, and I think that's everything that we'll need. So I'm gonna stop my screen share now. Does anyone have any questions before we get started?
How much sugar do you need?
Sugar? You don't need any sugar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's going to be using the sugars that are in the vegetables to create the bacteria. Yeah, good question though. Anything else?
Yeah, can it be a plastic container or it has to be glass?
I've never tried it with a plastic container. I don't see why it wouldn't work though. I'm trying to think. As long as it's like a pretty thick plastic, because it will expand a little bit, but we'll be burping it every day. And don't worry, I'll send up follow-up directions to make sure everyone knows what to do with it afterwards for how to take care of it. But I can imagine that a plastic container would work as long as it's a thick plastic. What do you got? What kind of container are you using there?
I'm probably gonna be using like a soup container. But in the movie An American Pickle, Herschel Grunbaum did go into like a nice vat, and I was just, that didn't work out.
Didn't work out. I mean, it worked. It pickled him. That movie was, in the moment, not great, but afterwards, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I've referenced back to it several times. So, I would say try it in the plastic container if that's what you have, and let me know how it goes. All right.
So I have a question too.
Yeah.
What is the difference between dill pickles and sour pickles?
Like sour and half sour?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's the amount of time it's for it.
That's what I assumed, but I didn't know for
Yeah.
sure, and I didn't look
Yeah.
it up.
No, it's a good question.
Okay,
Pretty sure that's the answer.
okay.
All right, so I'm actually not a pickling expert. This is the only kind of pickling I've ever done is this lacto-fermented pickles. I have done this one quite a few times, but other types of pickling I haven't really dabbled in yet. Here's some that I made last week, and I already tried some, and they're already good. Which I usually leave them for a week, but I tried them after 3 days, and they already tasted like pretty decent pickles. So feel free to taste yours early also if you want. All right, I'm gonna get started with my chopping. I'm gonna sort of tilt my screen down so you can see. You can do any kind of shape that you'd like. You can do them whole, but I like to cut them because I think that it gets through the skin faster and easier. Because then you're just cutting out one step of work for your brine to do. I'm gonna do slices today, even because I did spears last time. The pickles I just showed you there were spears. You do want to make sure that you have enough vegetables to fill your jar as much as possible. We're going to try and stuff our jar so that there's not so much room for bacteria that we don't want, and there's just enough space between your slices so that the brine can get in between. So we're going for a sliced cucumber in the circle shape today. My nephew will call these wheels. If anyone has little kids at home, pickling with little kids can be fun, also messy. So I'm gonna use, I generally like to use a large jar, but I only have 2 cucumbers left. I thought I had more. So I'm gonna go for a smaller jar today. And again, like I said, I like experimenting with this. I've tried adding different spices. I've tried doing this with carrots and radishes and cauliflower. That was probably one of my weirder ones I did it with. Today we're doing standard pickles, cucumbers. Does anyone want to let us know what they're pickling today? I see the Branders are doing this with us.
We've got cucumbers.
We're doing cucumbers and cherry tomatoes.
Cherry tomatoes, are they ripe or unripe?
They're from the store.
So red ones.
Multicolored.
Multicolored, cool. I've only done green tomatoes. Pickled green tomatoes. Robert, you're also doing it with us. What are you pickling today?
Cauliflower and carrots.
Oh, nice.
That's what we had.
All right, who else is doing it?
Am I cutting this?
That's what you got. That's
Are you even cutting
awesome. Ofer, what are you pickling today?
it? Show some help.
Ofer's on mute.
Shane, what are you pickling?
Karina.
I'm pickling red tomatoes.
Red tomatoes, cool.
I'm a voyeur. I have a question. I really
Yeah.
want to pickle onions. Can you, like the red onions, the pickled onions? Is
You
this,
totally can do this version for pickled red onions, but there is another version of pickled red onions, which is very popular. So I don't know if that's the one that you're thinking of, but it's a much sweeter one and it takes 1 hour to pickle those.
oh,
I can send you the recipe later. I don't know it offhand.
no.
If
If
you
you
wanna-
remember, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want to shoot me an email, I'll send it to you at the end of this Zoom.
Thanks.
Ronit can give you my email. Ronit, are you pickling right now?
Yep, we got cucumbers being cut.
Cucumbers, nice. Anyone else doing it with us?
I'm
Laura,
doing
are you
like
pickling
cauliflower.
yarn?
Nip.
Laura, are you pickling yarn?
Yeah, yarn.
I will be doing cucumbers.
Cucumbers, nice. Okay, you're watching for the,
Not right now. I couldn't
yeah.
do this in the
I know it's
kitchen.
a lot to maneuver.
My
Okay.
grandmother used to pickle cucumbers. We had the best sour pickles all summer.
Oh, no.
So
Put that.
I've always wanted to do it. So this was great.
It's perfect. And if anyone who has their camera off is pickling and wants to unmute themselves and let us know what they're pickling, you're welcome to. Once you're done with your chopping, what I like to do is mix my salt water in something separate right now so that it can sit and dissolve for a little bit while we're doing the rest of our preparation. So this is a jar that I'm not pickling in. I'm just gonna mix my salt water
A
in
jar
here.
that we're not pickling in.
Like a bowl to mix in or
Yeah.
something to shake it?
Either one. I'm gonna mix it with a spoon Sorry, Branders, I was chiming in there on your answers. But I'm just gonna mix my salt water in something that I'm not pickling in. I realized on my last Zoom, it was a little confusing that I had 2 jars. I should have used a pitcher and a jar or something, but I did it again. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 tablespoons in my quart of water.
And
That
while
is-
you're doing that, this is Barbara, I would just say, I'm pickling baby carrots.
Oh, yum. Perfect.
It's very easy. I didn't even need to chop them.
Right, no chopping needed. So Barbara, I've done carrots with purple carrots. And if you have any colored carrots that are purple, a lot of the time the purple will seep into the liquid. So don't be surprised if you have purple liquids that are become your brine.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead, pour my salt in and give it a mix. And we're just gonna leave that on the side while we're doing the rest of our prep so that salt can dissolve a little bit. Oh, I sprayed myself. It's good. Also, you know, my Zoom setup here is in my bedroom. So I go to sleep at night and my room smells like garlic. It's really fun.
How much salt should we be putting in?
2 tablespoons per quart. And honestly, think about how this was done in shtetl days. They probably weren't measuring. So don't feel free to not be too exact. If we're mimicking our shtetl, if anyone here is Sephardic, there are also Sephardic style pickles. And that is more, I think it's just the main difference for Sephardic style pickles is what it is that you're pickling. Is anyone here Sephardic and can tell us more about Sephardic pickling? No? Okay, so from what I've heard, the more common thing in the Sephardic community to pickle is lemons, pickled lemons.
They use amba too, which is like a
Okra.
no amba.
Isn't that the same thing as okra or it's different?
It's kind of a mango. It's a paste. I'm not sure
It's a
exactly what it
mango
is, but
paste.
yes, yeah,
Mango paste.
mango paste. Yes,
It's
you use that a lot.
excellent on falafel and shawarma.
You got that? Yep.
You know, I feel like I've seen that on menus and said that's not for me because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's tasty.
Excellent.
I'm big into owning up to not knowing what you don't know. So I like to crowdsource for information. So thank you for that. I'm gonna go ahead and start stuffing my jar with my cucumbers. Again, like I said before, want to try and get it stuffed. Before you start doing that though, if you are a super garlic lover, start putting in garlic first before you put in your vegetables. So you can put garlic at the bottom and the top. Just a little fun thing to do if you love garlic. We have a camp that we run, a farm camp. And the campers, I'm always surprised that they love to eat the pickled garlic. We usually do jars of cucumbers, and out of the jars of cucumbers, the children love to eat the garlic. I'm so surprised that they can handle such a strong taste, but they love it.
Do we just put the cloves in whole?
So for the cloves, I had added my veggies in and I'm gonna go for my cloves now. You wanna definitely peel them and you can throw them in whole, yeah. So I'm going ahead and starting to peel my garlic. Does anyone here have a garden at home? Okay, Robert does. Robert, do you grow
Summertime, yeah.
Oh yeah, a few people do. Does anyone grow garlic? Okay, garlic is one of my favorite things to grow because I think it's just very, very cool that you plant your garlic. First of all, the way that you plant garlic is you pop off the cloves and each clove is going to grow into a whole new bulb of garlic. So you get a decent amount and you're already starting out with a nice size seed. And the way that you plant your garlic is, again, you would peel it. The flat base here is where the roots come out and the top pointy part there is where the stem will come out. And you plant your garlic before winter and it usually will start to grow. We usually plant it a few weeks before winter. It'll start to grow roots before winter comes and then it'll stay frozen underground all winter. And then as soon as the ground thaws and it starts to warm up a little bit, that green sprout at the top will start to grow. And it takes about 9 months for garlic to grow. It's a long, slow process, but it is I think it's fascinating, and it's a very good companion plant. So it's good at keeping away lots of other critters because of the strong smell. Anything in the allium family, so that would be garlic, onions, leeks, scallions, all of those type of plants are really good at keeping away things like aphids from your lettuce. If you're planting any lettuce, you might want to go ahead and stick some allium family around your lettuce to protect it from the aphids, which is really great when we're checking for bugs before eating our food in the garden.
Is powdered garlic from a spice jar a suitable replacement for this, or do you need the actual clove?
Definitely a suitable replacement, 100%.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If anyone doesn't know, a good trick for getting the skin off of garlic is you push down on it with either the side of a knife, or you can use the top of your jar, and you might hear a crack of the skin coming off, and you might bruise your garlic a little bit. That's totally fine. If your garlic gets bruised, it'll help get that skin off and just speed up the process of peeling your garlic. Another thing which I just recently learned is that a fun way or a helpful way to get the garlic stink off of your fingers is to rub your hands on the, Judy's shaking her head. Judy, you've tried it? It works? I'm getting approval. Okay.
Yes, amazing. Who would think?
It works fantastically. You rub your hands on the metal of your faucet. And
Or I have a sink, the stainless steel.
Yeah, stainless steel of your sink.
Yeah.
You rub it, and that way when you go to bed at night, you don't have hands that stink of garlic. All right, so once you have your veggies in and your garlic cloves, it's time to start spicing your jar of pickles. So I am going to put into mine, I have some fresh dill here. So I have it's supermarket fresh, but I didn't grow this one. I also do have dry dill. If anyone wants to be adding that works too. The thing with sprigs of dill, what you want to do is make sure that you're tucking it down in between the vegetables, because when we pour the brine liquid over, it's going to make everything start to float. So you want to try and pack it in tightly so that it floats as little as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and stick mine down. I'm going to shake mine to the side to stick it in the sides, and use the veggies to sort of hold down the herbs that I'm sticking in. For how much garlic to put in, again, it depends on how garlicky you like it. I usually like to do about 4 cloves. My mom has requested that I add more. So this one's gonna be heavy garlic because she said not enough garlic. So again, depends on your taste buds. I'm also going to be adding some white pepper. Just again, it's what I have around and I think it'll taste good. I've done in the past mustard seed, coriander. What else? Is anyone adding something that I haven't listed to their pickles that they just have in their cabinet?
Any thoughts on parsley?
Parsley would be probably not add too much flavor, I feel like. Sure, it wouldn't hurt. I don't think it would add a very strong flavor though, especially with garlic.
Thyme.
Yes, I do like to add thyme. I have some thyme that I grew here, which is somewhere. I have a big bucket of thyme. Thyme's a good one. Karina, what are you putting in there? Dill?
I'm putting in dill, peppercorns, black peppercorns, and coriander seed.
Nice. For the dill, if you want to use the stems, that has a lot of flavor in it too. So you don't need to get rid of those. Yeah. Thank you. Definitely has flavor, but you can totally use those stems too.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Karina, can you show the coriander seed? That's what the mun looked like, at least according to our parsha this week.
That is a good add-on. I like that. And did you know that coriander is the same plant as cilantro? If you ever have coriander seeds, you can plant them and it will grow cilantro. And then after the cilantro is done growing, it will grow into coriander. It's going to grow little balls at the end of the vine, and it is coriander. It's the same plant.
How much of these spices are we supposed to be adding? Like I have like ground coriander, peppercorns. And...
You could, the ground stuff, you could do like a tablespoon and that's still fine. I know it sounds like a lot, but You're gonna need a lot. That's all good. And for the stuff that's whole, about a teaspoon, I would say, for whole coriander or whole peppercorn, a teaspoon should be good. I have some stubborn garlic here that does not want to be peeled, which is why I'm taking a little long.
You see the measurement for dry dill?
Yeah, for dry dill, I would do about a tablespoon.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you're doing fresh dill, you can, again, like I said to Karina, use those stems because that also has the flavor. I find that if you plant your own stuff, maybe you notice this too, that there are a lot of parts of plants that get tossed before they get to the supermarket and that are totally edible. Sometimes it's because they don't travel well, but sometimes it's because they're aesthetically not pleasing. So for example, leeks, if you ever have grown leeks, a big part of leeks get chopped off and they don't make it to the supermarket. So when the leek that you buy in the supermarket often has lots of the plant is already gone, has been cut off. But if you grow them, you'll see that there's a lot more to the plant than you might have noticed in the supermarket. All right, I'm up to adding my last spices. Is everyone sort of around there too? I'm getting some head nods. Okay, cool. So I'm adding in my pepper right now. This is actually looking like a very good jar. I'm very excited. And I did get another family request because I've been doing a lot of Zooms for Tu B'Shevat. I've done, I think this is my fourth or fifth Zoom pickling of this past week. And so now, since I've been making so many pickles, my family's putting in requests. So aside from my mom asking for more garlic, my brother-in-law asked, make them spicier. So this one's also getting red hot pepper flakes. And yes, a lot of my family lives together right now. So I'm on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. That's where I'm pickling with you from. And I'm originally from New Rochelle, New York. If anyone knows any New Rochelle folks, I know them more than I know the Upper East Side community. All right.
I think we have people from a bunch of states on now.
Yeah?
Well, obviously we're from Connecticut.
Yeah.
Adam, you're in Pennsylvania, right?
What part of Pennsylvania, Adam?
Harrisburg.
Oh, cool.
Anyone else from somewhere else? Guess not.
I guess not. Mostly Connecticut. Cool. All right. So everyone, let's hold up our jars, see what stages we're at. Nice. Nice. Awesome. Cool. Okay. The next thing that we are up to is our leaves. So if you have bay leaves, that works. If you have grape leaves, that works. What other kinds of leaves do we have? Horseradish leaves or oak leaves also. I'm going ahead and using bay leaves. The leaves are what have tannins in them, and the tannins are what give our pickles their crunch. So we are going to be sticking our bay leaves or whatever other kinds of leaves you might be using on the edges of our pickles, just so that I don't think there's actually a real reason for that. I think it looks nicer from the outside. I'm going to go ahead and stick mine on the edges, and the tannins are what gives our pickles a crunch. So you want to do a decent amount of these depending on the size of your jar. My jar is fairly small. I'm going to do 2. If you're the size of Karina's jar, can you hold yours up, Karina? I would do at least 4 in there. Yeah. So, and again, this is hopefully one step in your pickling journey. If you eat these pickles and decide they are not crunchy enough, next time you make these, go ahead and add some more bay leaves or grape leaves. And if your leaves break, that's no problem. All good. I'm going to do 2.5 because now I'm feeling like, oh, maybe that's not enough crunch. Adding 1/2 of another one. Halves are allowed. Wow, it smells fantastic. All right, once our bay leaves are in, we are ready for our brine. Now, before I mentioned that we are trying to grow good bacteria and stay away from the bad bacteria. So all of the good bacteria that we want to grow is going to grow under our brine. So it's super important that we make sure that our vegetables are fully covered with the brine. You also want to make sure that your water doesn't go completely to the top, the brine doesn't go completely to the top of the jar, because it's going to start to bubble, or in Robert's case, container, I'll say instead of jar. It's going to bubble when it starts to ferment, and you want it to have a little bit of space to do that in. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my brine up to cover my vegetables, but not so much to fill the jar completely. So before I go ahead and pour my salt water in, I'm giving it another stir to make sure it's nice and dissolved, that's the word. And go ahead and start pouring your brine over your veggies.
Our brine is just our salt water?
Our brine is just our salt water, exactly. So I stopped just before the top. It has about a half an inch, I would maybe about, inch to a half an inch between the top of the brine and the top of the jar. And some people use, what are they called? Pickling weights, which is something that you put, it's a weight that you just put in the jar and it holds everything down. It's a method. I have never used them and I've never had a problem. But the reason why you want everything to be covered in the liquid is because anything that sticks up above the liquid is at risk of growing some mold. Oh, Ofer has a pickling weight. Can you show that to everyone? Awesome. Ofer, are you a pickling expert?
You can also get a nipple. These are nipples that fit the 32-ounce mason jars.
Oh, nice.
And so you can cover it like this, and basically what it does is it allows all the gases to escape, and you have to bleed it basically.
Mm-hmm.
So this way nothing explodes on you.
Right. So if you don't have a nipple like Ofer has, what we're going to be doing is burping our jars every day to prevent, like Ofer said, exploding, because the bubbles are going to be building up in here. And if it builds up too much and we don't release any of that gas, you could have a risk of your jar exploding. I've never had a jar explode. The reason I've never had a jar explode is because I burp it every day for the first week. Burping it is just enough. You just open the jar enough to release out the bubbles and then close it again. That's the whole process of burping it. So this is the end of our pickling process for now. What you're going to do is store this somewhere room temperature. On a countertop should be fine. I would say maybe don't put it in direct sunlight. But if you put it in the fridge, it will work, but it'll slow down the fermentation process. So it's better to keep it on the countertop. It should take about a week to pickle. I did try mine after 3 or 4 days from this one of my recent batches, and it did already taste like delicious pickles. So you can taste it earlier if you're really anxious. I see we have some kids on here, and that's what happened with a recent pickling. Some kids called me after a pickling session and they said, well, we're eating it already and it's day 3 and it tastes good. So, so for the first week, you're going to keep it out on your countertop and go ahead and give it those burps every day. And after day 5, I would move it into the refrigerator and they can last for up to 6 months. So I have had pickles in my fridge for a few months now and they still taste good. Does anyone have any questions about their pickles? I also do like to give them a little bit of a gentle flip to mix up those spices that are in there and then burp it. Ofer, do you have any added tips of wisdom since you seem to be a pickling pro? You're on mute, but I'm getting a no.
On mute. There you go. It's straightforward. It's like very easy. And fun, and a fun project to do. It's really nice.
To do, and it tastes delicious, hopefully.
Yes, yes, sure does.
And it's, again, like I said before, a really great way to, if you have too many cucumbers or carrots and you don't think you'll be able to get through them, minimizing our food waste is a really special thing to do, especially if we can do it through bal tashchit, and understanding that we can preserve our food and make it last longer because it's something that we love. And when we make a bracha, we say thank you to Hashem for this food given to us from the ground. And when we remind ourselves that it's from the ground, we can remind ourselves also of all the work that went into that food being grown, right? From the tiny seed that it took to just drop in the ground, to the person who tilled the land, to the person who harvested it, to the trucking people who shipped it, to the people who stocked the shelves. The whole process of our food is a long process, and there's so much work that goes into it that if we think about how much work goes into all of our food, we might actually care more to not throw away our food and waste it. So I think pickling is a really beautiful way to make our food last longer and to show Hashem our appreciation for our food, that we care about it and we don't want to just let it go to waste and throw it away. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you had a lovely Tu B'Shvat, and I hope you enjoy your Tu B'Shvat pickles.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you. This was
Thank you.
Thank you. If it's okay with everyone, I am going to send a feedback form. And if you fill out the feedback form at the end, there's the directions for reminders for how to care for your pickles also. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. I'll
Have
put
fun
the,
event.
oh, thanks. I hope everyone enjoys their pickles. I hope they actually taste good too. So far, the ones I've had taste pretty good.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. I'll put the feedback form in the chat, and I'll also email it to Ronit in the case anyone who didn't get it. All right, hold on. Didn't have it ready fast enough. You know, it was one of those days.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
And for chiming in. All the chiming in is always fun.
Send us your pictures of your your creations.
We should have taken a group photo. We can still take with whoever's here. If everyone wants to hold up their pickles, we can take a group photo with whoever's here. Everyone hold up whoever has. If you don't have pickles, you could just smile with us. Robert went to get his. Awesome. Robert, can you hold yours a little higher so we can see him?
Ronit, you'll take a screenshot?
Yeah, I'll take a screenshot. Okay, ready? Everyone say trees. 1, 2, 3, trees.
Trees.
Awesome.
That's funny. Trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's trees. You know, that's the same vibe. All right, everyone, thanks for coming. Lila Tov.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
I really shoved mine. Shoved all three in one.
Raw dill, not good to eat. Raw dill, not good to eat.
Ew. Did you eat raw dill?
I was tasting it.
He tasted it. It's like, this isn't good to eat.
It's delicious. Are you kidding?
Correct.
It smells delicious.
Bernie, we get to reuse these. They even have burping spots, I think. That's what this
Oh, that's what it's for.
unless it'll shoot off. These we had, for those who don't remember, this was our Simchas Torah mixology event. We gave these out.
Did you Tovel it though?
Yes. I was going to leave that part out. That was.
Well, because we need it for the second time.
It's fine.
That's not true for anyone listening.
Also, this is a dangerous event. I don't know if you saw, but Rafi poured the salt water all over me in the middle of that.
Rafi, Pesach is not yet.
I thought that was part of the event.
And you can always tovel in the snow, right? Yes. Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
We need a new rabbi.
It's in the movie. It says you can tovel in snow.
I appoint Rob as my.
In theory, you could tovel certain things in snow, but not these things.
Ooh.
All
right. Well, this looks cool. I want to know how they all come out. So let me know how your pickles come out. Rob, what did you pickle? What was in your jars?
Oh, it was carrots in one, and then cauliflower in the other.
That's so cool.
And this is what we had. I like pickled cauliflower. It's one of my favorite. They sell these medleys. It's very good.
Where have you had pickled cauliflower before?
They have.
My brother made that once, actually.
The first, if you go to like these shawarma bars in New York, a lot of them have them as part of mixed vegetables. And then they also have in Big Y, there's like a section where they have these like weird pickle vegetable medleys, and the cauliflower is always very good.
Huh.
So
Should try that next time.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right.
yeah, thank you.
All right, make sure you remember to burp it. I don't want anyone's exploding.
I know that was scary, that part. I was a little scared about that.
I'm gonna burp mine like
No.
4 times before bed.
Yeah, okay. That
That's
doesn't
probably-
help anything. That doesn't.
Okay, well, it's gonna be great.
I was like, oh, another thing I have to burp.
When we talked about this, that was the first thing I was worried about. I once did this on like a retreat, and someone's like exploded in their suitcase. We're on the way to the airport, and all of a sudden I heard like an explosion, and it blew up all over their clothing, like soaked through everything.
That sounds great.
Thank God it didn't happen like 10 minutes later as we're going through TSA, because we would have shut down the airport.
That's why it exploded. It was in there.
Yeah, it was shaking
Bag,
around in their bag. It was
and
shaking around in their
moving.
bag.
Yeah, no, that was not a smart thing to
Yeah,
do.
but how could they have taken it otherwise?
Well, yeah.
You can't take it in your
Maybe
carry-on.
not an activity you should do when people are
Yeah, that
outside.
was not the smartest of the moves.
Right. Yikes.
I'm sure when they do the rules, when they talk about burping the pickles, there's probably giggles from the little boys. So.
Anyways, have a great night, everyone. For those, are you guys in Pennsylvania already getting snow?
Yes, we are.
Came from that direction.
School and daycare has already been declared closed, and some businesses declared closed. So
Yeah, we're close to, and it hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
So. Yes.
It's 7 feet in the Sierra Mountains from this storm.
God in Himmel. We're not going to get that much.
No, thank God not.
No, we're going to get 6 inches.
If you had 7 feet, would you then be able to topple the car?
Yes.
Probably. Yes. Yes. 7 feet. You could topple your jar.
Yeah.
And then you have to topple in the mix afterwards.
Tell the neighbors to close their windows.
I think swimming in 7 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Anyways, have a great night, everyone, on that joyous note.
Yes, Yashikoyach. Thank you.
Bye.
good night.